I actually probably favor regime change in Venezuela, to be honest. I think that that is a perfectly legitimate strategic goal of the United States. You know, we talk all the time about Israel and the war over there, and those are wars that don't benefit the United States. I actually think it would be beneficial if we had a pro-American regime in Venezuela. Probably would be good for us because of the resources they have.
No, Nick, it's not going to be good for you, dude. You're not a billionaire. You're not an oil tycoon. You're not part of the state corporate complex. You're not on the team, Nick. Bro, you're just a working class stiff with a radio show. Like, tell me you don't know the class-based society you live in without telling me. He thinks he's made the cut. Wasn't I just saying this, though? These limited hangouts, they are right about Israel, but wrong about everything else. They haven't even connected the dots yet. They don't understand it's part of the same narrative. It's part of the same economic system. It's the same colonial mindset, the same colonial policies that Israel carries out against Palestine at our behest as we carry out in Venezuela and the Latin American continent. Yeah, I mean, these people are not any different. He's tried to make a career out of attacking Charlie Kirk just because he wants to be the next Charlie Kirk. They literally do the same thing. These people are limited hangouts. He like look at the smugness too. I mean, he's a very smug human being. I actually think that we should invade Venezuela. Who's we? We would benefit. Who's we? Who's going to benefit from that? Motherfucker thinks he's on the team. What else can we say? Yep, Monroe Doctrine. That's it. I mean, you know, this is going along with the program. And the program is colonialism. The program is unilateral domination and interventionism, adventurist interventionism. But oh no, we have principles. It's like he exposes the fact that he has no principles. There's no commitment to any morality. It's just that he found a way to weaponize his hatred for the Jews. Israel gave him a vehicle to promote his anti-Jew rhetoric. What else can we say? Anybody else got any thoughts? How is, first of all, Venezuela does not represent any national security threat. I mean, so he's just saying, like, it's okay when we got to go back to the traditional war crimes, okay? It's okay when we do these things to other countries. I just don't want to pay for Israel to do those same things. But, like, intervening in Venezuela benefits working class Americans like Nick Fuentes the same way that intervening in Palestine benefits working class Americans living in America. In that, it doesn't. You know? Like, okay, Nick, strap up a suit. Like, let's get your soldier battle fatigue ready. Let's ship you on down there to Venezuela. You can go fight the brown. You want to protect that American interest, go on and suit up. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Nick Fuentes is talking about his American heritage like it was the Fuentes that were on the Mayflower in 1627 or whenever. I would love to get into a conversation with this guy. I would love it. He's not wrong. Focus less on the Middle East and more on what's going on in the Americas. Yes, because the Western Hemisphere belongs to the United States. Yeah. Was Venezuela promised to Nick 3,000 years ago? The Groypers are just Democrats. I think what we could do is like press him on his claims. Like, okay, well, how would America and whose America would benefit from invading Venezuela and having a pro-America regime? He literally said pro-America regime. So let's just keep doing what we've been doing for the past 80 years and installing fascist dictators in countries in Latin America, because it's really worked so well for not only for us but for the people that live there.
How would you structure imperialism in Central and South America to actually benefit the American people?
Okay.
Historically, regime change in South America has disproportionately benefited the multinational corporations who swoop in once the old government has been dismantled.
Going so fast. How would you structure imperialism in Central and South America to actually benefit the American people? Yeah. Okay. Historically, regime change in South America has disproportionately benefited the multinational corporations who swoop in once the old government has been dismantled. Usually this does not benefit America.
That's totally idiotic. In the first place, what we're talking about is neocolonialism, okay? So, you think you're asking a good question, you're not. First and foremost, it is strategic. Security is number one.
How do Venezuelans pose a national security threat?
Security is paramount. So you genius, are already skipping ahead to economics. And you're saying, how can regime change economically benefit America? That's secondary. There are security concerns, there are economic concerns.
He's a dumbass. The economic concerns are primary. Economic systems, in fact, drive political and military events. So this is a part of his grift. He will never acknowledge the primacy of the economy and things that are, for the same reason that Israel ethnically cleanses and does its settler colonialist. It's because dispossessing native lands is profitable. Nobody goes to war over something that's going to lose them money. Everyone that starts a war is going to make a lot of money. So the economy is primary. In fact, this goes back to the Crusades. The central banks have always funded wars so that they can sell their war debts. That's literally the creation of the modern state is nothing more than a collection agency for the banks to make war debts, like Michael Hudson told us. So he's once again trying to flip it. And also there's no legitimacy to his claim that it's within America's national security interests to invade a country like Venezuela. Venezuela does not pose a threat, a military threat, an economic threat, a drug cartel threat to boot to the United States. There is no threat. And if he's claiming that there's a threat that Venezuela poses to our national security, then surely he would be able to provide evidence which supports this claim. Because what's another thing that's telling is that the reason that he said that that he would support regime change in Venezuela was because it would benefit Americans. It would benefit Americans. And, I think the questioner that was a good question. I don't think he was prepared for, because the implication is that it would be good for our economy, clearly.
And those are wars that don't benefit the United States. I actually think it would be beneficial if we had a pro-American regime in Venezuela. Probably would be good for us because of the resources they have, You, genius, are already skipping ahead to economics. And you're saying, how can regime change economically benefit America? That's secondary. There are security concerns, there are economic concerns. The first goal is to secure, and I'm using the word a little differently there, but I mean to say that America needs to control its periphery, which is the Western Hemisphere. This is our sphere of influence. And what that means is we cannot be threatened here anywhere in a security context, in a defense, in the context of...
That's great, Nick. Thank you for articulating Cold War foreign policy for the past 80 years. It's well established that we control the Western Hemisphere. Are you saying that we should just continue doing what we've always done? Because we already, we are the greatest threat to national security, to everyone else in the region. No one's trying to pick a fight with Uncle Sam. So again, I will ask you, what security threat does Venezuela pose to the United States tangibly, materially? Can you point to it?
War, strategic. We cannot tolerate any regime in the Western Hemisphere that wishes to challenge us or would challenge us.
And when you say a regime challenges us or would challenge us, what do you mean? Challenge us how? If he was being honest, he would have to admit that Venezuela, if they are challenging us in any way, it's in our conception of what their economy should be, which is a corporate plantation, an outpost of U.S. imperialism, where their entire oil industry is privatized for American profit accumulation. So once again, going back to my thesis, it's the economy that is primary. And when you say we can't tolerate any regime that challenges U.S. hegemony, you're talking about challenging U.S. capitalist economic interests. That's the one bone of contention here with the Trump administration, is that Maduro is trying to reappropriate the land, resources, and labor, and most of all the oil reserves. Venezuela has the richest oil reserves in the entire world, and that is antithetical to capital accumulation for the Americans. So once again, it goes back to the economy. Anybody that tells you anything different is lying to you, and he's trying to skirt and do this little song and dance. But we see you. It's on site, bro.
Strategically, that would threaten us militarily. And that doesn't mean like Venezuela can destroy America. It means, are they cooperating or collaborating with our real strategic adversaries in any way, shape, or form? Could they be used as a base of operations? Take Cuba, for
Dude,
example.
this guy is like a Cold War cutout, man. I can't tell. I mean, this is exactly what reactionaries were talking about in 1950. You know, and another fallacy in how he's trying to paint this narrative is that a country like Venezuela or Guatemala, who did face intervention by the United States, the reason that they faced intervention was once again that they had socialist-style politics in their country, which was wildly popular among most of the people, and they wanted to change the top-down unilateral unipolar dynamic between the United States on one pole and everyone else on the other side. It was a way of upending the economic relationship that the United States parasitically utilizes in Latin America. And because we threatened a country like Guatemala in 1954 with physical invasion and violence, because they weren't turning over their farmlands to a private company like United Fruit Company, America threatened them with violence because of that and basically led them into the arms of the Russians and countries that are adversarial towards the United States. Because when the world superpower is breathing down your neck saying, we're going to do all kinds of sanctions and we're going to starve you and intervene and invade, what are you going to do? You're going to look to other people that could help assist you in this, because you don't want to turn into a corporate slave in the American plantation system. So it's never incumbent upon a reactionary talking head like Nick Fuentes to ask the really tough questions. What would have elicited if we understand that the United States is the world hegemon and we've lived in a world of a unipolarity and there's one world superpower? What might incite a country like Venezuela or Colombia or Guatemala to speak to the Russians, to seek out military aid from other countries? If you do a bit of digging, you realize that it's always because of American aggression. All right, let's continue on.
Well, Cuba cannot destroy America, but once upon a time, when the United States put missiles in Turkey, the Soviet Union put their missiles in Cuba.
Yes, exactly. It was a tit for tat. Thank you for acknowledging that it was U.S. aggression in the sphere of influence, which you were just so pearl clutchy about for the Soviet Union this time, which incited a equal but opposite reaction in the Soviet Union placing nuclear weapons in Cuba in 1960 or 1961.
And because Cuba was a regime that was collaborating with Moscow was able to put nuclear missiles off.
I mean, yeah, why would Cuba collaborate with Moscow? You know, it's a common trope. It's a common thing. It should be a common principle. It should be obvious to judge post-revolutionary governments by their pre-revolutionary conditions, but try to get a charlatan like Nick Fuentes to understand this, that in 1958, Cuba was ruled by a fascist CIA cutout dictatorship under General Batista, who was starving his own population, and that was installed by the United States. Why would Cuba, under harsh blockade and economic sanctions, this little island country right there in the dragon's teeth of the United States in the imperial core, why would they reach out and try to collaborate with countries that opposed the illegal blockade and sanction of Cuba by the United States? I wonder. It's all so complicated.
Off the coast of Florida. Security is paramount.
Security is paramount. Listen to this grifter, dude. He's so obvious. He's just there. He's just trying to rub shoulders with the likes of Trump and anyone with political power. Anybody trying to sell you national security in order to intervene into third world countries and third world markets is an obvious grift. It's an obvious lie, and it's no different from any congressman, Democrat or Republican. I mean, that could have been Rand Paul or Lindsey Graham or AOC for that matter, or Bernie Sanders. Like every U.S. statesman that has any sort of political power in mainstream politics threatens us with national security.
So this is the Monroe Doctrine. I believe that every regime in South and Central America and in the Caribbean should kneel to Washington. And so for starters, that
it's just unabashed out in the open. Yeah, he's like acknowledges that the Monroe Doctrine was a great thing. We need to preserve American hegemony and American empire. But the problem is like when we say American hegemony, we're talking the hegemony of a small sliver fraction of the American population. In fact, America is tanking. The standard of living conditions is deteriorating, you know? And this is nothing like intervening and coups and sabotage and sanctioning the world has ever lifted the living conditions for American working class people, who he claims to represent, by the way.
That means we should just forget about a structural colonialism. Hey, genius, what do you see in Argentina? Through soft power, a pro-Western regime was elected. Not complicated. And then what happened? Bilateral agreements. We secured the rights to their...
Yeah, bilateral agreements in the form of bailing out Argentina to the tune of $40 billion. Look, capitalism wins, baby. That's why it requires our money to bail it out of its own insolvency. Think about that. We're bailing out free market libertarian capitalist Argentina under Javier Milei, and we're bombing and sanctioning socialist Venezuela under Maduro. That's insane.
Their lithium, we control their river, they shut down the dual-use infrastructure with China. We could talk about that. That's for the policymakers. That's for the diplomats. We're not, it's a stupid question.
It's a stupid question. It's a stupid answer. It seems like you're not really fit to answer the question, actually.
That's the structure of it. It's obvious. Venezuela, we want to overthrow the regime. In Bolivia, a pro-Western leader was just elected. Probably soft power there also. And so this is the kind of game that we need to play. It's another great game. And so the first priority...
Soft power, just, internal sabotage, aka.
Strategic. The second priority is economic. And maybe we create some kind of economic union. Maybe we create some kind of economic union with South and Central America.
Sounds a lot like he's sniffing his own farts.
Normal way. And we make it so that we can provide for their trade needs. Maybe they can be the manufacturing. The things that China's manufacturing that we cannot, that we don't want to manufacture, maybe they can manufacture it. Maybe Argentina...
No, they're not going to manufacture it, okay? They're going to buy our manufactured goods, dumbass. Like this ain't already been set up to make the world starve, make all these countries food dependent, make them import manufactured goods, keep them from industrializing, keep them as agricultural slaves, cash crop societies, monocultures for the corporate plantation system. Come on.
Takes the soybeans and we take something else. Do we really need to make the soybeans? Why? Soybeans is not a great product. I'd rather make other things than soybeans. Let Argentina make the soybeans.
Yeah, let Argentina be the cash crop society, literally. Like we just need Argentina for the soybeans. Let's make sure that they don't grow their own food. Any other food groups, they need to come to America for that, okay? Well, the world's just our plantation system, okay? Let them grow soybeans. Soy boy Nicky on his Marie Antoinette arc. Let them grow soybeans.
And maybe we make something else, but we should enhance those trade relationships and we can make them beneficial based on...
Operative word, enhance.
...on the factors of production of the different countries. It's not rocket science. And colonialism gets a bad rap. You're wrong. Colonies make a country strong. Why else would they have them?
Colonialism gets a bad rap. You know what's crazy is there is a clip of a Zionist Israeli defending colonialism. And she says the exact word-for-word thing when she's talking about Gaza and Palestine.
The second thing is, I think that, and I know this is a minority view, I think colonialism gets a bad rap.
Yes. Colonialism gets a bad rap.
Colonialism gets a bad rap.
I mean, Nick is like, look, Argentina's soybeans were promised to us 3,000 years ago. I mean, of course colonialism is good. Oh, but Israel is bad. I thought we were on team anti-settler colony, right? I thought we were principled. We didn't want Israel to dispossess people of their land and then, savagely them and all, but now you're saying it's a good thing. Colonialism gets a bad rap. So you think what Israel's doing is good? Oh no, it's only good when America is doing it itself and doesn't hire CIA proxy states to do the bidding of colonial. We want to do the thing directly to the countries. It's good for us. What is this point, man?
It's this neoliberal like Milton Friedman that says, "Oh, in the long run, India cost Britain more money." No, it didn't. It was good to have colonies. That's what made them powerful. They got the raw materials from all these countries. They brought them here to manufacture. That's how they're able to make all this stuff.
Man, the transatlantic trade gets a bad rap, bro. I mean, look at what we were able to do, okay? If slaves weren't supposed to be slaves, then why did they exist as slaves? Clearly, it's part of their nature. Clearly, Africa was supposed to just be exploited to make Europe and the United States thrive. That was its role, man. Colonialism, just like it's actually good, guys. Colonies were actually very expensive to maintain, and there was a period of decolonization. He's actually kind of an idiot, you know, because this would have been well and good in 1899 if he was talking about this. Hey, you know, why not have colonies? Good. It's good, man. Good for the core. But, you know, if he studied history, he would realize that even, you know, the most ardent colonists and imperialists like Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson recognized the costs of maintaining colonies when you are an empire. And, I mean, just think about how the Philippines, which you could argue is still very much a colony of the United States, although it's not formally, but at one point it was very much a colony, and there was just rebellion after rebellion. Costly, you know, you have to send in troops. It's not very, so he's just like, yeah, send in the Marines, man, send in the military. Let's have our fucking patriots die on the front lines out there in Venezuela and Colombia. It's good, man. We need more soybeans. He's just perfectly well and good to send your son or daughter to go die for country, for U.S. corporate interests.
It's this neoliberal, like Milton Friedman, that says, oh, in the long run.
I love how he tries to pejoratize neoliberal. This motherfucker is a neoliberal.
India cost Britain more money than, no, it didn't. It was good to have colonies. That's what made them powerful. They got the raw materials from all these countries. They brought them here to manufacture. That's how they were able to make.
Yeah, in the 1800s, that might have been okay, but in this day and age, it's an antiquated way of controlling other territories around the world. There's a whole fucking ideology that's been perfected post-colonial era. And that's, you know, neocolonialism. It's neoliberalism. Neoliberalism is colonial in nature, and they've recognized that the nature of empire has changed. I mean, the British Empire is not the U.S. Empire. They look different. The British Empire actually conquered more square mileage than the United States, but the nature of empire has changed. We have technology. We have ways of posturing to the world without having to go in, send in the Marines, and physically take the land from the people and turn them into a colonial outpost. So, I mean, this guy wants to go back to like the 1860s or the 1850s or even like the 1880s. Make America great again. Let's set us back about 150 years. We need to go back to the good old traditional ways of conducting colonialism. You know, before we had technology and like, does he understand the implications of what he's promoting here? Which is like full-scale invasions of places that have millions of people, and they're gonna make all these people they're just gonna turn them into like colonial, you know, and just become a money pit.
Make all the stuff. That's how they were able to make ships and clothes, and that's why they were able to make the last 3 centuries British. If colonies are so bad, then why was the 18th, 19th, and first half of the 20th century British centuries? Every hegemon for the last 500 years was a colonial power. Spain, Portugal, Amsterdam, England, France, Germany, all colonial.
I've heard Netanyahu make a similar argument. I mean, this guy, are we sure he's not Israeli? Are we sure this guy's not Mossad? I've heard Milikowski make the same argument for why he's colonizing Palestine. Yeah, why didn't the U.S. just stay a colony? Well, you see, that's, you know, they would be on the other end of the stick. So, you know, that's no good. It's rules for thee, not for me. Okay. Yeah, you know, the past 5 centuries have been ruled by colonial empires. Sure. There was also, you know, a whole transatlantic slave trade. There was misery, death, devastation, exploitation. I don't exactly think that was a good thing. I think we should probably, you know, progress from there. There was also like the Age of Enlightenment, and, you know, at one point Britain said slavery is too odious an institution to have any relevance in our society today, so we must abolish it. So like Nick is saying, that's a bad thing. When they abolished slavery, you know, 18th, 19th, and the early 20th, you know, up until there was like it was all, we should just go back to the old days, you know, when it was an international institution. Now, again, going back to that point of the nature of empire has changed, we have a pointillist empire now. We don't need to go and take large swaths of land and colonize people by the millions. We can park an aircraft carrier outside their country or a military base, and we can project military might and strength and have them, and let's say enforce the global finance system in a way that doesn't need millions of Americans to go occupy land around the world. Guy's a limited hangout. This is what they do. They're right about one thing, but they're wrong about everything else, and they distract and they mislead and they misrepresent and they lie and they deceive their audience. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe to the page to help it grow. And if you'd like to support my work, join my Patreon for exclusive content.